Hello everyone, welcome. Today we're going to be looking at Killian, Decisive Mentor. He is a 3 mana, 2/3 human warlock, and whenever an enchantment you control enters, you tap up to one target creature and goad it. He also reads whenever one or more creatures that are enchanted by an aura you control attack, you draw a card. So we are going to be building Killian in quite a unique way today. You could potentially build him as the usual Voltron commander. Build him up with lots and lots of auras, hit someone in the face and kill them that way. But in this case, we're going to be doing a reverse Voltron strategy. So instead of us, building up our own commander to be lethal attacking, we're going to be putting all of our auras onto opponents' creatures, specifically just one quite large creature, and having that be goaded and hitting our opponents for lethal damage. He works quite well with the strategy, given he has inbuilt goad, as well as being able to tap down blockers, so you can control the combat phase very, very well with him. And while doing that, you will be drawing a lot of cards with the second ability. Potentially, you could even draw 4 cards every single turn cycle, which in my experience is a very powerful effect, even if you do have to work towards it a little bit more in this case. So let's have a look at the deck. Okay, we will start here with the card advantage package. First we have Core Spirit Dancer, Saram Senior Edificer, and Mason Enchantress, all drawing us a card every time we cast a enchantment or aura spell. We also have Victor. He will, on the first enchantment entering, Surveil 2. Then on the second enchantment entering, he will force all opponents to discard a card. And then on the third enchantment entering, he will reanimate a creature from any graveyard. So this can mean that if your opponent decides to discard quite a large creature, you can then play one more enchantment to immediately reanimate that creature. Next we have Ashiok's Reaper. This is more of a burst draw card. So what will happen is, if the creature that you have been enchanting on the opponent's side does die, you will redraw for every single enchantment that is put into the graveyard that way. That is the main way that this will draw you cards. One other small utility function there is also with Spellbook Vendor, which I'll read out later, but you will be able to repeatedly draw a card every single turn for 1 mana. And next we also have Songbird's Blessing. This reads, whenever the enchanted creature attacks, you reveal cards from the top of your library until you hit an aura card. You can then either put that on the battlefield directly, or you can put it back into your hand if you don't need it immediately. One other we have is Lord Skitter's Blessing. This will enchant a creature you control when it enters with a roll token, and then as long as you control an enchanted creature, every single turn you will lose 1 life and draw an additional card at the start of your turn. Next we have Grisly Transformation on the Evasion package. It will draw you a card when it enters and give the enchanted creature Intimidate. We also have Feather of Flight at flash speed, will draw you a card and give flying to the creature. We also have a bit of a token strategy sub-theme in this deck. There's many cards in this deck that will make a creature token every single time an enchantment enters. First of all, we have Historian's Boon that makes a 1/1 white soldier. We also have Archon of Sun's Grace. This will make you a 2/2 white Pegasus with lifelink as long as this survives every time an enchantment enters. And looking over at the recursion package, we also have Ghostly Dancers. When this enters, you'll get back a enchantment from your graveyard. And whenever an enchantment enters, you get a 3/1 flyer. Also in the recursion package, we have a few unique reanimation spells that specifically bring back an opponent's creature, and it will set up that creature so that it can't attack us, but it is goaded. So it will be always attacking, and we can enchant it for a card draw every single turn. There's also Jailbreak, which will bring back a target permanent card from an opponent's graveyard, and then you will also return a permanent card from your graveyard with lesser mana value. So this, you can bring back a creature on an opponent's side and then immediately enchant it with whatever you want from your graveyard. There's also Court of Ardenvale, which will, every single turn, bring you back to your hand a permanent with 3 or less mana value. But if you are the Monarch, which it gives you, you will bring it back to the battlefield instead. And lastly, there's Retether as a mass reanimation spell for anything that can enchant a creature. Now, one problem this deck does have is once you've built up an opponent's creature to kill each of the other opponents, it turns into a 1v1, and the goad mechanic does then allow them to attack you, so you'll need to find a way to have that creature kill its controller. Over here you'll see 2 cards specifically for that purpose. We have Visions of Brutality that says the enchanted creature can't block, and whenever an enchanted creature deals damage, its controller loses that much life. So you can have it attack you, and then you just block with a 1/1. When it deals however much damage to that 1/1, it will then deal that much damage to its controller instead. Secondly, we have Bane Wasp Affliction. This will deal damage to its controller based on its toughness whenever the creature dies. So we are able to kill it off, then it will punch its controller in the face as it goes. To do this, we have specifically Extract Confession, as it will force each opponent to sacrifice the creature they control with the greatest power, which obviously we have full control over with all of our auras. And while we're here, let's have a look at our removal package. We have many aura removal spells, such as On Thin Ice, that enchants a snowland and removes a creature. Darksteel Mutation, which enchants the creature and turns it into a 0/1 indestructible bug. We have Nowhere to Run, that will give -3/-3 on enters, and will also turn off hexproof and ward abilities from opponent's creatures, which can be a problem with this deck. We have Ossification, which will exile a creature and enchants a basic land. We have Grasp of Fates, which will, on entering, grab 1 non-land permanent from each of our opponent's fields. We have Split Up, which will destroy all tapped or untapped creatures, which with our commander we can control very nicely who is tapped and untapped. We have Stasis Snare, which at flash speed will remove a creature from the battlefield. Toxic Deluge is very good for killing off smaller creatures and leaving our large enchanted creature alive. Cast Out can at flash speed remove any non-land permanent from the battlefield. And then we have Fell the Profane as our MDFC to destroy target creature or planeswalker. And Skybind, which will be able to bounce any non-enchantment permanent whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield. We can use this to temporarily remove blockers or stop combos on opponent sides. Next, we have the utility package. We have Spirit Link and Vampiric Link, which will cause any damage dealt by the enchanted creature to come back to us. A pseudo lifelink, but this lifelink works with opponent's creatures. Next, we have Spellvit Render. At the beginning of combat on our turn, we may pay 1. If we do, we put a sorcerer roll on target creature we control. And interesting about this is whenever you enchant something with a roll that already has a roll, the original roll will fall off and go to the graveyard, triggering our Ashiok's Reaper to draw us a card every single turn. We have Heliod's Pilgrim, which will tutor for an aura card and put it into our hand. There are a few other instant sorcery versions of this effect. If you have them, feel free to put them in the deck, but this one is very cheap, so it's worth adding to the deck. And next we have Elspeth Resplendent. She can put a +1/+1 counter, and our choice of a flying, first strike, lifelink, or vigilance counter on any creature, including our opponents. We might want to put a first strike counter onto the creature we are enchanting, so that any death touch blockers will not be able to kill them. She also has a -3 to look at the top 7 and put any permanent card with mana value 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield with a shield counter on it. She also has a -7 to create 5 3/3 angels with flying. This is not too important in the deck, but it can be a good option. Next, we have our protection package. Starting off with Flickering Ward, which is a quite interesting one. Whenever it enters, you can choose a colour and give the enchanted creature protection from the chosen colour. But more importantly, you can then pay 1 white to return this to your hand, which then you can play again and return to your hand and play again and return to your hand, triggering all of our draw effects and enters effects. Next, we have Karametra's Blessing. This will give +2/+2, as well as hexproof and indestructible if it's an enchantment or enchanted creature, which obviously many of our targets are going to be. We have Restoration Magic, which at different levels will either give Hexproof and Indestructible, and gain 3 life, or for 5 mana total, it will give all of our permanents Hexproof and Indestructible until end of turn. We also have a Benevolent Blessing. This at flash speed will give a creature protection from the chosen colour. This won't, however, remove any auras of the chosen colour, but it will stop us being able to put more auras onto that creature because it obviously gives protection, which stops targeting. We also have a Flicker Form. This is a 2 mana aura, but it doesn't really do much at the start. However, for 4 mana, you can exile the enchanted creature and all of the auras attached to it, and then at the beginning of the next end step, you return that creature and all of the auras you had onto that creature back to the battlefield. This will obviously trigger all of our Endless effects and grow our board again. Interestingly, when it does get down to a 1v1, if we do not have one of our Furnisher cards off yet, we can continue to play this every single turn, just to say, yeah, not this turn, maybe try again next. We also have Blessing of Leeches. You can play this at flash speed to pay 0 as many times as you would like to regenerate the enchanted creature. This will stop it dying from Death Touch or any sort of removal spell. However, we won't get around them trying to sacrifice it if they do get the option to. And we also have Tiny Ward. You can pass this at flash speed if it targets a commander, and it just gives the enchanted creature indestructible. Next, we have the Pump category. We have Ethereal Armor. This will give +1/+1 for each enchantment you control and give the creature first strike. All That Glitters will give +1/+1 for each artifact and enchantment you control. Demonic Embrace will give it +3/+1, give it flying, and also make it a demon. We can also pay 3 life and discard a card to cast Demonic Embrace from the graveyard. We have Idol of Countless Battles. This will enchant the creature and give it +1/+1 for each creature we control and each aura we control. And obviously with our Enters effects creating us tokens every single time, our board should be quite large and give us quite the buff. We also have Eye of Nidhogg. This will give the creature base power and toughness 4/2, flying, death touch, and permanently goaded. This will also return to our hand from the graveyard any time that the creature enchanted is removed. We have Hope Against Hope, which will give +1/+1 for each creature we control. And if we do enchant a human, it will also give it first strike. Twin Blade Blessing will give the enchanted creature double strike. And Sage's Reverie will draw us a card for each aura we control that's attached to a creature. And it will also give +1/+1 for that amount as well. Tempest Technique is an interesting one. It has Storm. This Storm count shouldn't be too high in this deck. But even if we get Storm count of 3 or 4, this will give a huge buff, given it's +1/+1 for each enchantment we control. And we can hit many different creatures with the triggers from Killian as each one of these enters. And lastly, we have Mantle of Ancients. This is a slightly different one, as it enchants only a creature that we control. But when it does, it will return any number of target auras from our graveyard attached to the creature that we enchant, and it will give it +1/+1 for each aura attached to it. So even if we usually want to enchant our opponent's creatures, if we need to, this can be used as a finisher. And finally, we have our ramp package. In this case, we have the usual Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Mind Stone, Talisman of Hierarchy, and Relic of Legends. But interestingly, we have Starfield Mystic, which will give our enchantment spells a discount of 1. We have Surveyor's Scope, which is a unique one that I would like to try myself. For 2 mana, you can exile it at any time to search the library for X basic lands, where X is the number of players who have at least 2 more lands than you. One interesting thing you can do with this is if you have an Evolving Wilds, you can sacrifice it, and then in response, use this ability so that you will tutor for X basic lands, where X is the number of opponents who have only 1 more land than you, as you've gone down a land before. We also have Transcendent Envoy. This will give our aura spells 1 less to cast, and Pearlier Imperial Advisor. This will give our enchantment spells affinity for auras, which, as you've seen, there's many auras in this deck, so our enchantments should only be costing coloured mana if this is on the battlefield. And finally, we have the Restoration of Iganjo. This doesn't not read as a ramp card, but if you notice, you can actually discard the planes that you tutor to the second ability to have it enter the battlefield tapped. This is quite a diverse card, but it always grabs your planes, so if you're down on lands, then this will get you at least one land back and can be used to reanimate something later if you need to. On the back side, it will also create a 1/1 spirit whenever it attacks or blocks on a 3/4 vigilance body. I also have a small maybe board of cards that could be useful in this deck, but I didn't seem necessary to have this time. We have Hall of Halo's Generosity to put enchantment cards from your graveyard on top of your library. We have Pearl Medallion to give our white spells cost 1 less. We have Minions Return that can be used at flash speed to steal a creature that is about to die. Whenever an enchanted creature dies, return that card to the battlefield under our control. And we also have a Moon Blessed Cleric. It's another one of the tutor effects that can be used to grab an enchantment out of our deck and put it on top of the library. Ink Shield can be used in one of those 1v1 situations to create a huge board of 2/1 flyers. Winds of Wrath will destroy all creatures that aren't enchanted, which obviously we have good control over. And a fun little one I found, we have Enslave, which will grab a creature from an opponent's side and give us control of it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please remember to leave a like and subscribe if you do enjoy. I will be posting a lot more videos, and the decks will always be quite unique. I don't usually build decks the normal way, so I look forward to seeing more of everyone. Thank you.